Hey, what is going on, everybody, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas and all of that stuff, depending on where you are in the world. Maybe it's already over, and I really need to invest in some proper holiday wear one day, and I literally was searching for anything and came up with nothing. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a video for today, given the holidays, and not wanting to do anything too negative, but we do have Adam Warlock's event fast approaching on Monday, so I thought if I delayed this any further, then it might not land at an appropriate time. What I wanted to discuss in today's video is whether or not Adam Warlock is obsolete. And what I mean here is, within the context of his unlock event, is he someone that you're going to use or want to use, and how badly do you want him? And this might depend on whether you're a mid-game player or a veteran player, or you're just a super lucky early game player that somehow managed to unlock Jubilee to get him. We're going to be talking about all of this and more in today's video, so hopefully by the end of this you can all make an informed decision about whether or not Adam Warlock is worth it to you. So without further ado, let's get this Christmas Legendary show started. Okay, so before we get started on everything, I wanted to drag your attention to msf.gg, and this is the listing for all of the characters that use Superior Miasma as their Superior Unique. And this is really important because there's a lot of good characters other than Adam Warlock that use this. A lot of characters that you're using now, some that you're not so much using necessarily, like Ghost Rider and Hela, I think are well past their, definitely Ghost Rider, and Hela's definitely past her expiry date now. But there are other characters such as Kitty Pryde, who you might be using alongside your Astonishing X-Men, a Cloak, and, you know, part of that Cloak and Dagger Mystic group. And actually, in that fact, a lot of these are Mystic characters. We have Deathpool, we have Doctor Doom, so that depends on your Dark Dimension 4 progress and whether or not you're there yet. Not going to include Dormammu for obvious reasons, but you can see that there's a handful of characters, you know, at least 4 other characters on the board that you possibly could be using during Miasma. And is Adam Warlock worthy of that, given that including him, there are 5, you know, valid characters that you could be gearing requiring this unique? And unless you have a crazy crap ton of Miasma just flowing out of your ears, you know, that's a lot, because to go from, like, let's just say, for example, just to get to Gear Tier 15 or even Gear Tier 14, you're going to need either 36 or 61 if you really want to max them out in the orange tier. So that's a lot of Miasma, and like I said, unless you got a lot lying around, then this is going to be a difficult decision that you're going to have to make. But I wanted to kind of just, you know, cue this up first before we get started on everything else. The second thing I want to talk about is just some of the basics, in case you guys are unaware about what's required to get Adam Warlock unlocked. So you do need to get X Factor. He was one of the first mythic legendary events, which meant that you needed to have these characters at a specific gear tier, ISO, and as a result level. So it's X Factor plus Jubilee. Now Jubilee is very easily, well, I say it's easy to obtain with just Ghost. So in terms of the investment that you need to get Jubilee, you need Pimtech, but you really only need to gear Ghost, because I actually did that most recently by just having a gear tier 14 Ghost, levels 75, 76 I think, and I was able to get the 5-star unlock for Jubilee, and that would actually get me able to get Adam Warlock. Not so in my baby account, because I didn't have Multiple Man. Now, Multiple Man is one of the hardest ones to farm here, because he is available on Doom War 3.9. Now, this is really far into the Doom War campaign, and so as far as newer and some mid-game players go, there's a lot of extra steps and a lot of sections that you have to get through in order to get to farming Multiple Man. So it depends on whether or not you were lucky in orbs, mega orbs that you might have got along the way, that you may have got some pretty good drops here. Otherwise, Shatterstar is available in the Arena store, pretty easy to get. A Longshot is in the War store. I wouldn't necessarily say easy to get, but he is available there, you know, and you know, if you want to put the shards into him, that's possible there too. Now, Polaris is probably one of the earliest farmable characters, because she is available in Cosmic 1-6. As far as power level goes, this is pretty easy. I actually had Polaris to like 6-star in my baby account very early on, probably before level 70, so that's not a big problem. But in terms of unlocking Adam Warlock, you need to have Gear 12, level 65, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and ISO 3 green. So that's just for the bare 5-star unlock. Now, when it comes to getting higher, 6 and 7-star, and I might get the 7-star, but for me, I'm missing a little bit on the Polaris shards. I would have to get the double shards running, and then I would need to get the ISOs to green 5 for Shatterstar, Multiple Man, and Polaris. And I'm actually unsure if I even want to do this at this point, just to get that 7th star on Adam Warlock. So there's a couple of different considerations depending on if you're a newer player, mid-game, or a veteran player, if you're going just for the unlock or if you're going for that 6 or 7 star. Because in terms of the gear, you know, it kind of ramps up a little bit. So 7 star, for example, you know, requires gear tier 14 of all of the characters. That's okay with Jubilee, I think. But for some of these other ones, you might not want to do that now because some of the gear that's required. We also have hinted that there's going to be some mutants down the line next patch. So if that's the case, are you really going to want to gear all of these characters to, say, gear tier 14 for that 7th star, you know, right now, when, you know, I'm actually, if I were to gear tier 14 multiple mana Polaris, I think I would be exactly out of mutant gear 14 stuff and all of that. So I wouldn't have any left over for what I need for other future characters down the line. So it's a bit tricky. Do you want to invest all of the mutant gear to unlock him? So that's just the bare basics. We're going to be talking about Adam Warlock specifically in each game mode. We're going to start with Arena, and then we're going to go to Raids, and then we're going to go to Dark Dimension, and then finally talk about Alliance War, and then try to conclude on whether or not he's worth it for you. So let's start off here in Alliance, in Arena, not Alliance War, in Arena. So this is my Arena offense now. Now this is just like the speed meta of the Eternals, and that's what I use to do my Arena now. And actually, for that matter, my baby account uses this exact same setup for a lot of the attacks, and I'm doing just fine. So what that I'm trying to allude to is that you actually don't need Adam Warlock too much more anymore to do things, and, you know, in order to actually have him valid enough to survive in, you know, top tier Arena against the Eternals, you would need to have him at that gear tier 14, gear tier 15 kind of level. So there's a lot of investment that you're going to need to put into Adam Warlock to do that. Now, is he completely useless? No. I mean, there is certain combinations of the Eternals group that it is better probably to use the Infinity Watch team. But then now we're talking not just gearing up Adam Warlock, we're talking about having to gear up the rest of the Infinity Watch. So depending on where you are in the game, and like I said, context is very important. So if you're a mid-game player, if you're an early game player, or a veteran, if you're a veteran, you already have Infinity Watch leveled up anyway, so this is kind of a moot point. But if you haven't yet, you know, really geared up the Infinity Watch, if you're a mid-game player, or even like an early to mid-game player, and you haven't decided to do that Infinity Watch, you know, to a high degree, you know, is it worth doing? I don't know, because it's going to be a lot of characters that you're going to have to raise up that you could be using on other characters at this point for an Arena meta that's constantly shifting, but kind of focused around the Eternals and not necessarily the Infinity Watch. So I can use Infinity Watch to beat a lot of these teams, especially when it involves Baron Zemo. If you see any of these Baron Zemo comps or Dr. Doom and Baron Zemo comps, it's actually easier just to go in, say, to this one using the full Infinity Watch team. But once again, this is more aimed towards veteran players that very likely already have that up, because if you look at my Infinity Watch, it's at that's Deathpool. I don't know why I had her in a version. 853k is my Infinity Watch team, and this is fairly maxed out, you know, but to actually compete with these sort of comps, you know, you're gonna need probably about 650 to 700k minimum, which requires, you know, an Adam Warlock that's gonna be pretty highly geared, if not maxed out. So are you going to want to do that if you haven't already done so already? Honestly, I'm not sure it's worth the resources with the way that Arena is right now with the Eternals. I just think that we're moving towards this kind of Arena Eternals hybrid question here, with more and more characters coming out that you're probably going to want to shove in with the Eternals. They're going to be the bare bones skeleton group and using different characters to beat different comps. And I just think that's how it's going to be. It's going to be a bit of a hybrid soup for a little while, and for that reason, I don't think Adam Warlock's worth gearing specifically just for Arena. But let's talk about Dark Dimension, because that's where a lot of people are thinking about him and whether or not you need him. And to talk about Dark Dimension, you have to just bring up the entirety of the Legendary roster. So I do want to say that just for, you know, to let you guys know, that it does take a long time to level up. So if you're not already level 85, you know, your considerations are going to be different than, say, someone who's at level 85 and either hasn't unlocked them or has unlocked them and they're wanting to go for a 6 or 7 star and unsure if they want to do that. So just to put it in perspective, to go from level 75 to 85, which is, you know, basically Dark Dimension 3 and 4, you know, and then to 5, it's going to take you probably about 4 or 5 months, I think, you know, because it took me about 2 months to get from level 70 to 75 on my baby account, and I think 75 to 80, I'm currently at 78. I think it's going to take me roughly the same amount of time per 5 levels. So to put that in perspective, you know, as time goes on, and whether or not you get up to Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, there's going to be more characters available. So whether or not you're going to be using Adam Warlock in Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, we're not even going to bother talking about Dark Dimension 5 at this point, because not only is it the final lane for Dark Dimension 5, but there's going to be so many more Legendary characters that are going to come out before the average player is even able to, A, get into Dark Dimension 5, and B, get to the end of Dark Dimension 5 where, you know, the Legendary lane is the final section. So that's not part of this video here, really. But let's talk about Dark Dimension 4 Legendary. So that really depends on where your current progress is, both in Commander level, but also in Dark Dimension 4 more generally, and how close you are to getting towards that final section. So you do need 4 characters for each lane in Dark Dimension 4, which means that you're going to need a total of 16 characters, not 20 like Dark Dimension 5, but 16 for Dark Dimension 4, and you need 4 of those to be legendary. So as far as what characters I would consider, I would usually consider from the newest back. So that really would be, at this point, it would be Omega Red, and yeah, Adam Warlock is the second newest legendary right now, until the one that we're going to get in February. But it really depends on, you know, what characters that you have available to you right now, what characters that you might have available to you, and whether or not you're that close to entering the legendary lane or not. Other useful characters that you could possibly use instead of Adam Warlock for Dark Dimension 4 Legendary, Shuri, believe it or not, alongside Omega Red. Doc Ock is still a very valid character, and of course Jubilee, who just came before Adam Warlock. So there are other, and then now that Phoenix has been dropped down to 5-star unlock, this might be a little bit easier for you to do as well. And Mutant Gear actually isn't too active compared to like Mystic. There's a lot of really powerful Mystic characters right now that you might not want to dedicate, and I didn't really talk about that, but you know, the Eternals, who are Icarus and Cersei, you know, are 2 really strong Mystic characters that you might not want to put your gear towards Adam Warlock, you know, instead of them. I wouldn't do that. If I had a choice between Adam Warlock and Icarus and Cersei, it's definitely going to be Icarus and Cersei. Now, I don't know, I know that they don't have superior miasma as they're unique, but as far as gear goes for Mystic, that's a priority to me. So, depending on what you have available to you, if you're able to get Omega Red, which will be coming up pretty soon on the second pass, that would be great, you know, but there are other valid legendary characters. You know, it might take you maybe like a week longer to clear it without Adam Warlock, but I can guarantee you that long term, in terms of your gear usage and where you're going to be using Adam Warlock coming up, there's actually not a lot of places where you actually need to have him. And I realize I said actually quite a few times there. But really, you know, there's other alternatives that you can do. Is it going to be as fast? Maybe not. But in terms of long-term progression, resource management, which is very important in this game, you really need to consider where you're going to be using them. So for me, for Dark Dimension 5, once again, I don't like talking about it, but for those who want me to bring it up, you know, I'm not sure if Adam Warlock's going to make the cut. You know, I'm going to use Omega Red, and I think there's going to be 2 more legendaries before I even get close to even getting into Dark Dimension 5, let alone to the legendary lane. So I'm not going to assume that Adam Warlock is a sure, you know, a sure spot there based on his kit. He's got a great kit, but I don't think he's actually going to make the cut for me when I get around to my Dark Dimension 5 legendary. As far as Dark Dimension 4 legendary now, I think that you don't have to pick him if you have some of these other options. So do keep that in mind. Let's jump on over to talking about raids. Okay, so in the context of raids, I did mean Doom Raid, so I apologize if anyone here was hoping that I was going to talk about Ultimate 7.5 or something like that. But no, this is entirely about Doom Raid 1 and 2, this kind of stuff too. So as far as the Mystic roster goes, it's really unfortunate that Adam Warlock actually has been bumped off. Both him and Silver Surfer have been bumped off the roster because of the Eternals. Because of Icarus and Cersei, they are just out of this world, mind-blowing, crazy. Now, because you have to choose 5 Mystics, you know, who do I normally recommend? Well, you can stick Icarus, Cersei, and the New Warriors entirely on auto. Whether it's on Doom 1 or Doom 2, you can auto them because they're that powerful. Now, if you're not able to do that, you know, because, and I want to make this very clear as well, I said this in the beginning, you know, the New Warriors contain 2 characters that require superior miasma. So that's directly competing with Adam Warlock. Deathpool and Cloak are directly competing competing gear-wise for Adam Warlock. So choosing Adam Warlock makes it a lot harder for you to get the rest of them up, who admittedly, or I believe that they are more better long-term. I think you're going to get a lot more wider use out of the new warriors than you will out of Adam Warlock because of some of his restrictions that apply as a legendary character. You know, you're not necessarily using Adam Warlock in, say, the regular Cosmic lane, but that doesn't really matter anyways because the Eternals just came in and just swept the board and kicked a lot of people off the field. So it doesn't really matter there. So I would really focus on all of these other characters first before considering Adam Warlock now. And it's a very unfortunate state of affairs because, like I said, Surfer was kind of kicked off the way as well. So this kind of leaves us with, you know, a very tight sort of field here with Doom Raid Mystic characters because I honestly think it's the best of the best. And as far as obtainability goes, Icarus and Cersei were very easy to obtain. My baby account got Icarus at 5-star. Now, I did buy a couple of 675 core orbs, and, you know, I got a little bit lucky there. But, you know, they were actually quite generous for his event. Cersei was a campaign event character, so it was quite easy to get her as well to the 4 or 5-star level. Deathpool was also a campaign event character. The only shifty ones here were Cloak and Dagger because of their mixed release methods. But I would say that all of these are roughly attainable characters that you could have got over the last 6 months because that's when they came out, I think, you know, for the most part. As far as the oldest character on this list would have been Deathpool, really. But other than that, these are all fairly new characters that came out in like an August time, and the Eternals were just last patch, and they just blew things out of the water. And since then, you know, they are the best characters in the game. So there's no reason to really consider these characters. I don't even use Dr. Doom anymore for Mystic. I don't touch him anymore for Mystic. I do use him for Tech, and he also includes Miasma. So if you are on the course of possibly getting Dr. Doom unlocked, that just gives you another reason probably why you might want to reconsider Adam Warlock, because you might prefer to gear Doom for using him in the Doom Raid Tech section instead. You know, but if you have all 5, if you have the new Warriors and the Eternals, you don't need to use Doom in this section, and actually I would recommend against it just to save his cooldowns for when you're doing Tech. So finally, let's end off in Alliance War, because that's where he does actually get some uses. And in order to talk about Adam Warlock in the Alliance War sense, you really do have to talk about Adam Warlock within the Infinity Watch team. Now, without a doubt, this team is still very much a top 5 team, both in Alliance War and in general. But it's very much reminiscent of the Black Order. You know, when Black Order was kicked off of the arena meta, they were still a very good team for things like War and other places that you could somehow use the full team together. But this is part of the problem that Infinity Watch has as well. Now, some of these characters are, you know, flexible a little bit in terms of their usage overall. But realistically, if you want like the full potential of this team, especially with Safeguard that Adam Warlock gives to the Infinity Watch, then you need to use them as a full 5-man team. And as far as War goes, they are a very strong counter to Heroes for Hire, which is still a very much pain in the ass War defense team that a lot of people are having to deal with. There's a couple of, you know, tweaks that you can do to beat them now with the Eternals and a few other combinations and Weapon X as well with Omega Red. But Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch team definitely represent that easy kind of way to beat them. But, you know, anyone who's followed my channel knows that I don't really invest in a character specifically for their usage in War. So while it is really good, if you're in the sort of early and mid-game stage and wondering whether or not Infinity Watch is worth it, I don't think that they're worth it to the gear tier 14 and 15 level as they once were. So if you're in the level like 65, 70 range and you're not sure what you want to do with these characters, I think you should probably, for the most part, give them a pass. Now, this is not, you know, going to be about the other characters. This is an Adam Warlock video. Some of these other characters do have, you know, their uses up to like a Gear 12 stage, like Gamora for Doom War, Phyla-Vell for being Kree, I think also for Doom War, these kinds of things. But other than that, you know, Adam Warlock standalone, as far as his value for Alliance War, I don't think that's enough to justify me building him if I was to do it from scratch. Now, like I said, context is very important, because I'm not saying, you know, if you already have Adam Warlock unlocked, don't get that 6 or 7 star, but I'm saying that you might need to consider all of the aspects, such as do you want to gear your X Factor to Gear 13 or Gear 14 to get those additional stars? Do you think it's worth it at that point? You know, for me personally, I would say be cautious, because we do have the rumored Excalibur team that might be coming around next patch, which are probably going to be about 4 mutant characters. So are you going to want to put all this mutant gear into the characters that are required to unlock Adam Warlock when you have a new meta team possibly coming around the corner? I would be very cautious. And for that reason, I'm really not sure that Adam Warlock is really worth it anymore. He doesn't tick as many boxes as he did even like 3 months ago. And this is sad, because this is the first time that I have ever said this about a legendary within 6 months. This is his third pass coming around. Pretty sure it's his third pass. And, you know, I can't say with confidence that he's going to really last much longer. And for that reason, I just have to really caution people about what your plans are to do. Do not go out of your way to unlock him, in my opinion. If that means that you're coring like mad to farm some of these X Factor characters because you're just some shards short, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't really do it personally. You know, if it means that you're gonna have to spend 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 cores to get them unlocked, I don't think it's worth it personally. You know, if you're gonna unlock them just naturally because you're close enough, I would say go for it. But other than that, I don't actually think he's really worth putting too much effort into getting at this stage. And it's super unfortunate, because he's actually been really good when he first came out, but he's been the first legendary that I think has slipped this far, this quickly. And that's where I'm going to end my video. Let me know if you think I'm crazy in the comments down below, because I think I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, just like I did when I made a video about Ebony Maw, when I told people that he was garbage at this time and wasn't worth building. So I'm totally open and ready on Christmas Day to receive some comments like that. But otherwise, let me know if you agree or not, or disagree, and why, in the comments down below. I'd love to read them and hear about them. Otherwise, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day and the rest of your holidays. And of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I will see you all later. Boilon signing out.